All right, guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Uncle Sonny podcast, where we have conversations with different thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and creatives, all about the different types of mindsets that you need to jump out of your job and into your dream. Today, we have a very special guest, a shining star, a blast of positive energy. She has coached over 200 people and she has 3,000. That's right, 3,000 hours of coaching under her belt. She's doing an amazing job right now. I'm so happy to be connected with her. This is Love Coach Kat, and she's here to say hello. How are you doing today, Kat?
Oh my gosh, I'm feeling amazing. I'm so grateful for you, T Spice, for getting me on your podcast. You are a light yourself, and so just being here, sharing energy with you is the best way to start the day.
Man, beautiful stuff, beautiful stuff. So, Kat, I understand that you're on a mission to help people love themselves more deeply and intently. Before we get started, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself a little bit more. Where did you get started? What are you experiencing right now, and where are we headed?
Yeah, and so I call myself Love Coach Kat, and my mission in life is just to help people fall in love with themselves over and over and over again. And I always like to say over and over and over again because it's a process, right? There's going to be different versions of yourself throughout your lifetime, and it's important to go ahead and recognize all of those different parts of yourself and different identities that you get to fall in love with. And so for me, I really started my self-love journey. I mean, I feel like we all start our self-love journey from the beginning of time when we are born, right? And so depending upon the parents who raised us, the people around us, and our mentors, our guides, and our teachers, really they're the people who teach us about self-love. And it's only until we're adults that we get to have control over what we put into our minds and put into our bodies and spirits about what it means to love ourselves. And so for my journey, really it all began with the biggest change in my life that happened when I was young is when I was 7. I was living in the Philippines. So I was born in the Philippines. And at 7 years old, my uncle from the States came to pick me and my sister up. Right. And so that meant leaving my parents behind. And so I, at 7, didn't know what this meant for me. But my mom and my dad really wanted to make sure that we had opportunities, and they believed living and being raised in America would be the greatest opportunity. And so they sacrificed not having their 7 and 9-year-old with them so that we can go to America for greater opportunities. And so eventually my dad did move to the States, but my mom never ever got to immigrate. And so what ended up happening was I was raised with my dad, but he also had challenges that he was going through because he had migrated here, right, to the States. And I ended up having to lean on other things in my life to get fulfilled in terms of like parental love. So, I was lucky enough to have my aunts and my cousins to help me with that. But going into, my teenage years, I really was looking for something to fill that gap that I felt like I was missing from not having my mom around. And so I ended up leaning on romantic love, as a teenager would, right? The hormones and all of that. So I ended up, jumping into relationships, and they were long-term relationships. And I did that for, from the age of 16 until 26, for 10 years. I was jumping from one long-term relationship to another long-term relationship, hoping to find, fulfillment, hoping to find love. And I found that I was unfulfilled, right? I would be in these relationships for 2 to 4 years each. And at the end of it, I would feel like, why do I not feel fulfilled by my partner? And ultimately, I decided, I think it's time for me to take a break and just focus on myself. I asked myself the question, what would it feel like if I poured all the love and energy that I poured into my partners, my romantic partners, and actually poured that into myself? Like, what type of woman would I be? Would I be Superwoman by now? Right? Because I poured in a lot of love to them. And so I ended up deciding I'm going to take a year of just being single. I want to take a year to travel the world and really focus and explore on what my passions are and what I wanted to create in my life. And so, yeah, I traveled around the world. I went and hired a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I, ended up deciding that I was ready to take the next leap of faith in my life. And that meant, starting my own business and stepping into entrepreneurship in that time as well. And so it was so important for me to understand, what does it mean to lean on my own love, and using that love to drive me, instead of having someone else to motivate me or inspire me or to love me, so that I can get to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a
Do
long journey and
it,
story, but happy to
it's
share.
a masterpiece of an answer, that's for sure. Very thorough, very thorough. I think we know each other very well now. We go way
Yeah.
back like rims on a Cadillac now. But yeah, there's a lot of things that really stood out as far as what you said. I really like what you said when you said fall in love with yourself over and over again, because I've become aware of this fact. I guess it is a fact. I mean, I haven't seen it for myself, but we've uncovered the fact that your cells, because they regenerate so often, that you are actually becoming a new person quite regularly, right? So it's important to realize that self-love isn't a one and done thing, that there isn't no destination, there's no end to the process, that it's a continuous process, that you must continually first build and maintain a relationship with yourself. What would you say to somebody who is transitioning, like maybe as far as their identity is concerned, maybe instead of just being a mom, now they're looking for some individuality, or things like that?
Yeah, I love that question. Identity is such an important topic, right? Because in the terms of when we are born into this world, automatically we're prescribed an identity, right? So your parents give you a name. You don't create your own name. You are given a gender. You're given an ethnicity, right? You're given all these identities that we didn't ask for necessarily. And as we grow older, we then have more autonomy to create the identities that we want for ourselves, right? And so it's so beautiful for me to see someone who's ready to take on a new identity. And taking on a new identity doesn't have to mean losing your old identities, right? It means recognizing that those past identities actually help create the new identity that you have now, right? And so it doesn't have to be, oh, I am shedding everything, I am losing everything. No, part of the identities that you held in the past are going to be crucial to understanding the new identity that you're trying to take a hold of. And recognizing that even the new identity that you're about to step into, that identity may shift and change, right? As you said, the process of shedding skin is a continuous process of change. And I like the analogy that I read about, our blood, right, is continuously pumping through our system. And so internally, if we think about it, there's internal changes happening every second, every millisecond in our body. And so what does that mean? We're continuously changing inside. Therefore, there needs to be changes on the outside as well.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. Your inner world is a reflection of your outer world. And I think that for a lot of people, that's the scariest part, probably because there wasn't a foundation of security probably early on in life. But now I think that it's important for people to find an inner sense of security, to develop a type of security through a relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
How would we go about just going from being insecure, identifying insecurity? I think is a major part of it. How would we go about identifying it and creating security with ourselves?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. And so I like to talk about when we talk about insecurities, I like to talk about ants. So ants it equals automatic negative thoughts, right? These are thoughts that we continuously have in our brain and we don't even consciously know it's happening. And so we're trained growing up and also in our DNA to have ants, because our ancestors in the past were cavemen and cavewomen, and they had to be on the lookout constantly, right? For predators come to them and attack them. And so now, we're in the modern age, right? Despite, not having big, I don't know, tigers attacking us. We still kind of have that in our DNA. And that's part of like automatic negative thoughts. And so there's all these thoughts that we have, but we have to recognize what those ants are, right? So for example, one of the ants is focusing on the negative, right? So it's super simple example is how many of us have taken tests when we were in school? We probably had got a 90 on a test. And the first thing we did, what did we do? Looked at what we got wrong, right? Instead of focusing on, look at the other 9 questions you got right out of this 10 question exam. And so this is the same thing about our insecurities, right? So one of the ants that you can really help change and shift your insecurities is recognizing that you are automatically, most of us are automatically going and looking at the negative things that are going wrong in our lives versus what's going right in our lives, right? And so this is where gratitude, you talk about gratitude a lot, T-Spice. I love seeing all your gratitude posts. I do my gratitudes every day, y'all. I can show you right now. This is my gratitudes for the day today, right? And so it's a habit, right? I need it for me to realize how much of an honor, how much of a blessing it is to be alive today, right? So the fact that you are listening to this podcast, what a blessing that is, because you listening to this podcast means, one, you woke up today, right? You woke up, you're breathing today. You are in one way or another have the space and time and have dedicated, growth and personal development in your life today. Focus on the good things, right? I would say practice this. This is one tool that you can use. Go ahead starting tomorrow, wake up, and I want you to carry around a pen, and every time you feel yourself thinking about something negative, go ahead and mark it, right? And just marking it, recognizing that it's there. I'm not saying focus on it, just recognize. And just look at your hand at the end of the day, the back of your hand, and say, wow, these are all the negative thoughts, right? That's day 1. Day 2, do the opposite. I want you to start thinking about all the positive things. Day 2, just mark every time you think about something positive. And just look to see how you feel in terms of the difference, right, in your body and how you're interacting with other people too, based on you being intentional about what your thoughts are and really battling those ants. And one more thing about ants, y'all, if you have lots of ants, 1 ant is not a problem. 1 automatic negative thought is not gonna kill you. You got 2 ants, it's okay. 5 ants, you're good. But you got thousands of ants going in your mind, like tackling your mind. That is a problem, right? It's gonna be an issue. And so fun fact is we have 90,000 thoughts a day, right? And 70 to 80% of those thoughts are the same every day. And T-Spice, you know this, right? And so when it comes to that, if your thoughts are the same, almost the same every day, are you trying to make shifts in what those thoughts are? Because what your thoughts are is who you become and how you show up in the world.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful. So I hope you guys have a pen and paper out right now because she's dropping gems. I know a lot of people listening to this podcast right now have a ton of ants in their life, ant hills, and some of them are fire ants. So if you have ants in your life and you've been able to identify that just now from what Kat just said, it's time to grab some Raid. It's time to grab some Raid and spray the ants down, clear them out. But moving right along, oh man, so we're talking about negative thought patterns at this point because it becomes a cycle. And Albert Einstein said that you can't solve a problem with the same thinking that created it, right? So I find that to be one of the more difficult and challenging parts to changing your thought process is your mind is the one who has to change your mind, which is, it's a weird thing to say. Like I heard somebody say self-help is kind of crazy. Well, it was Alan Watts. I remember Alan Watts said, self-help is crazy because the self that needs help is also the one doing the help. It's weird what I know that we need to be able to throw a wrench in the works at some point and break the cycle and make a shift. But what is a really good way to go from 0 to 60 in personal development when your mind is the mind that needs to be fixed is also the one doing the fixing.
Yeah, I love that. Wow. You can't change yourself if your thoughts are the same, right? And
Right.
with self-help, you're helping yourself. And so that's a conundrum, yeah, right? So when I think about that, the first thing I think about is, yes, we are responsible for our own actions and behaviors, but we have to remember that there are so many resources and tools outside of us. And more importantly than resources and tools, we have people, right, outside of us who can help us, guide us, support us through our journeys, right? And so for me, some of the biggest life changing investments that I made were investments with people, right? Investments in other people's programs, in other coaches, investments in, just people writing books, right? Because these books that we buy, right? This is one that I'm reading right now, The Law of Spirit. These books that we buy, they are not just books. These books were made by people. Most of the things that are helping us in our personal development are made by people. All of the things are made by people, right? And so we have to remember that we're not alone in this, right? This is not a journey where you have to be all alone in a room and reading a book, and that's it, and that's where your journey stops. You have to be able to understand how committed am I to shifting and changing. With that commitment, am I willing to invest my time, my energy, my monetary energy exchange, for this new identity or new goal that I set for myself, right? And so as T Spice knows, he's a coach himself, right? And I'm a coach too. And so we didn't become coaches just by sitting in our room and looking in the mirror and saying, okay, let's shift our mindset today. That's a little bit of the process. We have to wake up and look at ourselves and love ourselves, yes. And we also have invested in ourselves so that we can do the shifting. I have hired coaches. I've hired business coaches. I currently have a health coach right now because y'all, this quarantine has gotten me to not move my body. And so I need a reset, right? And so even as a coach myself, it's so important for me to have other people who are masters at their trade to teach me their ways. Ooh, look at that, y'all, a little rhyming for you today. And so
Bars.
yeah, and so I highly suggest investing in yourself. Like right now is the time. There is no better time to invest in yourself, to invest in your own dreams, to create the reality that you want in this life. Because let me tell you, no one's going to create it for you other than you, right? And you won't be able to do it just by looking at yourself in the mirror and just talking to yourself. It requires a support system.
Right. So I'm hearing what's coming up for me.
What's coming up for you, T-Spice?
What's coming up for me is that it's time for everybody or a lot of the people that are listening to the podcast right now to get out of their own way and ask for help. To know that they're not going to figure it out all on their own. And I think the idea of a self-made person is kind of preposterous. Like nobody is actually self-made. Everybody had somebody, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a team, you don't, as the type of animals we are, we're collaborative, right? We're a collaborative species. Like nothing in this world was built by one person alone, although one person may take most of the credit. It just doesn't happen. So to think that you're going to create anything worthwhile and significant by yourself, I think is leading yourself down the wrong path. And it is important for you to use other people as resources. But when you're just getting started, how difficult is it to jump into the unknown? I want to know, what is the first step that you need to take if you're going to look to start coaching 200 people and have 3,000 hours? I want $3,000. So 3,000 hours of coaching under your belt.
Yeah. The first step, when the first thing that came up for me when you asked that question was clarity, right? So without clarity as to what you want to do, without that intentionality, reflection within yourself, then it's going to be really hard for you to understand what to do next, right? And so one of my clients, for example, he's been a sushi chef for over 5 years now, right? And, he's been going down this path, but he's starting to feel like there's a bit of, there's something that's holding him back from fully going in and being the number one sushi chef, right, in his state. Like, that's one of his goals. He wants to be the number one sushi chef. And so one of the things that we talked about during his sessions was that he was holding on to an identity, right, that his parents had for him to be this engineer, because he also has an engineering degree. Mm-hmm. And so he's been holding on to this engineering degree and this identity. And so there was a lack of clarity as to, am I gonna try to appease my parents right now? Or am I confident that this path of being a sushi chef, right, is the path that's gonna really help bring happiness and joy in my life, right? And so it took one coaching session for him to get clarity on, actually, I am now ready to let go of the dreams that my parents had for me. And I'm ready to step into my dreams fully, right? So now, three coaching sessions later, he's planning to start his own business, a food truck, sushi truck business in Las Vegas, right? So, like, imagine what that one coaching session did in terms of his clarity, right? And I'm not saying a coaching session is the only way to get clarity. That's one way, right? Another way to get clarity is talking to your significant other. Another way to get clarity is, to reflect on your own and journal, right? And so clarity is so key, so key when it comes to creating a new goal for yourself or creating the path that you want to take for yourself, okay? And make sure you lean on others when you're trying to create clarity, right? And I'm going to tell you, though, the difference between, asking a friend for clarity versus investing in your clarity by investing in a coach or investing in a program, right, is that your friends may have some biases about what it takes for you to get to where you want to go, right? The responsibility and the job of a coach is to help you listen to your inner voice, right? So T-Spice and I don't have a formula and to tell you, like, this is the path to success to become the number one sushi coach, the sushi chef in Las Vegas. Like, we don't have that formula, right? We don't, but you do, right? And our responsibility is to tap into your inner wisdom to be able to get you into action, into clarity first, and then action towards that goal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hit it right on the nose. Absolutely. So being clear, I think it is really important, because in today's world, especially with the internet, we have so many different options and so many different avenues that we can go down. And it's easy to fall into decision fatigue. Well, what should I do this? And what if I don't do this? And what if I miss out on that? And I think what's more important, a lot of people fall into this trap of there is no opportunities, which is just unfortunate. Unfortunate that that's your perception, because with a shift in mindset, you can see how many opportunities there is. But then when you do that, you realize that there's another problem, that there's actually too many opportunities. But now you have the clear pathway to choose the opportunity that is for you. And once you do that, you have clarity and you're ready to act and you're ready to show up and you're ready to live your purpose. So that's a beautiful thing that coaches like Kat and I are able to assist you with. The answer already exists within you. The distractions are what's keeping you from it. Beautiful stuff. Does anything come up for you for that?
For you, when you said the distractions, the decision fatigue, it's real, y'all. We're constantly bombarded with social media. We're constantly bombarded by, like, our friends and family, our partners, even our own thoughts of, like, what is the best move? What is, like, the thing? And so, one of my mottos in life is an experiment, right? So imagine if you just think about waking up, today is an experiment, right? You get to decide and you get to experiment and be curious about the world, be curious about yourself, be curious about what the hell brings me joy today, right? And really working towards that joy, right? Because there is, yes, we need certain things to live in life, right? We need a house over our head, we need food, we need money to pay for these things. But in all of that, right, we need to also prioritize our joy and our happiness, right? I want you to be able to, be, at an older age, right? You're laying in bed at 60 and you're happy, right? You're happy with what you did. You're grateful for taking those risks, right? Because all those risks are experiments. Experiment, y'all, have fun. Don't, if you are an introvert and deep inside, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to be that extrovert. I want to be the one in the room that's talking and like having all these conversations and connecting with people. I want to be that. Mm-hmm. Experiment. Do it, right? Do it. And that sounds crazy. They're like, oh, do it, just do it. Nike. But really though, you can be anyone you want to be. Like you can shift your identities based on what is going to make you happy. I'm not saying all introverts should be extroverts. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you feel like being an extrovert and you're an introvert right now would make you happy, then why not experiment? Why not try? And it doesn't have to be like this big thing, right? You can try with the person that you trust most, your best friend, right? And so let it be an experiment, y'all. And don't let all of these things that are bombarding you get in the way of you finding your joy, right? And the biggest one other tip that you can do to help you find joy and is just go back to the 7-year-old you. Think about you at 7 years old, right? What brought you joy at 7 years old? And this is funny, this for me. One of the things that brought me joy at 7 years old is I used to love to massage my parents. Like I used to like literally step on my dad's back, when I was a child, and I like give my mom massages. And so clearly at 7, I love to take care of people, right? I love to help people feel good. And so hell yeah, it makes sense that for me, love coaching, self-love coaching would bring me joy. Right? Because even at 7, I love to do that, right? And another example that's completely opposite of that is my partner. He's a game designer. He's also an entrepreneur. And so a household of entrepreneurs, y'all.
That'll work.
Crazy. And so he creates video games for cats, but he also has all these other games that he creates on a regular basis, right? But his love for games didn't start when he was, later in his adult years. He loved games from the beginning. That was his first dream when he was young, when he was, I think 5, 6 years old, right? And so it brought him joy. Games brought him joy. And so what did he do? He built his career and his impact in the world around the thing that brought him joy, games. And so T-Spice, I got to ask you, when you were 7, what brought you joy as a child? And how is that connected to today?
The first thing that I can think of is going outside on a sunny day. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. So just going outside, sunny day, I'm like, all right, life is good. That's the very first and most prominent, vision that I have, memory that I have. So I guess being outside, being in nature just does something to me chemically on a molecular level. And it's kept with me the entire time. So I guess it's appropriate that my foundation name is the Uncle Sunny Project. Cause
boom! Wow, that gave me goosebumps, right, y'all? Look at that.
Absolutely. This is it. This is it by accident.
It isn't, y'all. It is not. And you've created it, right? And because T-Spice has unlocked something that many of us are working towards. It's like, it's living in purpose, living with joy, and spreading that to other people. And I am just in awe of you. I'm in awe of your work. I'm in awe more of your being, right? Who you are, because you're inspirational. You inspire me. And I'm so grateful that you are helping all these entrepreneurs, or soon to be entrepreneurs too, to like shift, right, in their mindsets about taking on something, taking on a dream, right? And we're not always going to be successful, right? One of my things is fail fast, fail quickly, get back up, right? And for me, every failure is a success because failure meant I actually did it, y'all, right? Failure meant you actually did it. If you failed at something, you did that. Celebrate that, right? And this is going back to our beginning of our conversation. Focus on the positive of that failure, the fact that you finished, the fact that you did it. You put energy, time, and sweat into it. That's more than enough. Give yourself some credit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've had to remind myself to give myself some credit because I've been manifesting so many different things and switching my mindset and just working. And it didn't feel like work. So my head was kind of, just down, just in it, just identifying with it. It was just regular life. And I got to a point where I was just really beating myself up. Like, you're not doing enough. Your schedule is not on point enough. Like, you're not consistent enough. You're not disciplined enough. And then I just received like a full body message that I consider to be God, universe, vibrations, to say, look at what you've done, bro. Like, you have a one-on-one coaching program. You wrote a book. You have merchandise out. You're creating content. You're doing all this stuff. Like, chill out. You're allowed to take a break. And something you said triggered that. I forgot what it was, but something you said triggered that. Give yourself some credit. So I was thinking that because my first book is my first book, and I noticed some things that I definitely want to tweak. I'm probably going to come out with like a second edition. I'm definitely going to write more books, that's for sure. But when thinking about how imperfect my book is, I know a lot of people probably don't see it the same way. At the same time, I wrote a book. So you got something to say about my book? You know what I'm saying? You didn't like it too much? Okay, that's cool. Where's your book at? And it's not to be arrogant, or overly confident, or overly cocky, but yes, it's important to realize that by failing, you are showing yourself that you're trying, that you're pushing your limit, and now you have a new plateau to start from. I'd rather start, if I'm going to write a book, I'd rather have already written a book than to thought about writing a book, never done it, and just be writing my first book at this point. I'd rather have a first book and decide to write my second one. So that's super important, and we could probably talk about this all day long, but we're getting to it's almost time. But before we tap out, I want to give you the opportunity for the last words. I'm going to ask you, what is one thing that the listeners can do right here, right now, to begin this shift to more of an internal type of love rather than seeking it externally?
Yeah, and so here's what I would say. The one thing that I would ask for you to do right now in this moment is go to a mirror. And I just want you to take a moment to just see yourself, right? We are usually in front of a mirror because we're getting ready. We're usually in front of a mirror by accident, right? But I want you to intentionally walk up to a mirror and just look into your eyes and just feel yourself, just see yourself, just allow yourself to take in the fact that you are alive today. Allow yourself to take in the fact that you just finished listening to this podcast, that you're filled up with all this beautiful energy, and just smile, and just tell yourself, you're beautiful. I love you. And just go from there, right? And the reason why I ask you to do this is there has to be a level of recognition, right? That we are who we are. And slowing down and taking a moment to look at yourself and tell yourself you're beautiful, tell yourself that you love yourself is so key to be able to be and just live. It's so key, right? And so I am so grateful for you, T Spice, for inviting me to your podcast, for being a part of your journey, and being in community with you, right? I love you. I see you. I am proud of you. You're killing it. And so many people have better lives, better mindsets, and just better beings because of who you are. And so I'm grateful for you too, Spice.
I'm super grateful for you too. I honor you. I see you as well. I am a reflection of you. I am you. There is no separation. So I'm super honored and proud of you. I'm also proud of myself for being around you because I'm a big believer in your vibe attracts your tribe. So I look at people and I admire the energy that it took to attract these different interactions and these different experiences. I realize that it is in me and I am loving what I'm seeing from you. So I'm super excited. I want to thank you again for talking to us. But before we go, I want to ask you, how can we get connected with Love Coach Kat?
Yeah.
And how can we support you? What can we do?
Yeah, and so the best way to connect with me, and that's really simple, is Instagram. Love Coach Kat is my Instagram handle. I also, that's my email. Y'all, also lovecoachkat@gmail.com. Go ahead and email me. I would love to talk to you. As you know, as I like to do, I like to gift, coaching sessions to people that I have met and have never coached before. And, that 45 minutes call can give you clarity, right? And so you're welcome to, email me. I have a link on my Instagram that will help you schedule a call with me. And yeah, let's connect. I would love to follow you back. I love following people's journeys. Who doesn't, right?
Yeah.
I'd love to follow you back and follow your journey. And so, yeah, that's the best way to connect.
Absolutely. And you won't be disappointed because Kat is super entertaining, super informational on Instagram and also TikTok. Matter of fact, I got the TikTok shirt on right now. Yeah, we're doing TikTok. So make sure you follow and connect with Love Coach Kat.
Yeah.
Like I said, you won't be disappointed. That's all we have for this episode. Love, love, be well. And don't forget to have the guts to follow your guts. Peace.